financial counsellors with Uniting Kildonan. I'd first like to acknowledge the land on which we are all meeting. In the case of the city of Whittlesea, that is the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and certainly pay my respects to all their elders, past, present and emerging. Now, today we're going to be talking about financial hardship and debt management. This is something that a lot of people are facing at the moment. It's a tough thing to talk about for many people, but we find that a lot of people are caught in a debt trap. And a large part of what financial counsellors do is helping keep people's head above water. We're not planners or advisors. We're not about wealth accumulation. We're about helping people in hardship. So we provide information, options and advocacy where appropriate or needed for anyone experiencing financial hardship. Anyone can access it. It is free and confidential. It is impartial. We also do a lot of work in the area of promoting financial well-being through things like talks like today, through financial literacy, and we're also all about empowerment. So we certainly want to not only hold the hands of our clients through their journey to better financial health, but also empower them with skills, confidence, tools, knowledge, so that in future they can also go out there and advocate for themselves and have the confidence that they know what they're doing and that they can get the results that they want. At the end of the day, we don't tell anyone what to do. As I said, it's information and options. You make the decision as to what you would like to do when you come in and see us, and or have an over the phone appointment, because you're the expert in your own life. At the end of the day, what you want, and you perhaps have a better idea, because we don't know your full story and probably never will. So the decision making is up to you, and then we assist you along the way. What financial counsellors also do is on a systemic level, so a higher level, we do a lot of lobbying with politicians and the likes, so that we can get legislative change. Our goal is to lift people out of poverty. There is an extraordinary amount of poverty across this country, and there needn't be. For instance, a couple of years ago, you might remember there was a Royal Commission into the banking industry, and a lot of the changes that came out of that were a result of case studies that were presented. Every single case study came from a financial counsellor somewhere in Australia. And there are financial counsellors all over the country which you can link in with, irrespective of where you are. Now, we do work in catchment areas. So in the case of Uniting Kildonan, we cover Whittlesea, Nillumbik, Banyule, Darebin and Yarra. Now, drowning in debt. Far too many people are experiencing this at the moment. And coming out of the pandemic, a lot of people have been harshly affected, but all of the temporary measures that were put in order to assist people through this sort of hump period are coming to an end pretty much at the end of this month. Some have, but the last of them are coming to an end, and we expect to see an influx of people wanting assistance as all of a sudden they no longer have the assistance, the protections that were there, and they're getting demands for payment and so on. So the first thing we'd say to people when you're actually dealing with debt is that communication is the key. I know that dealing with creditors can seem very intimidating, particularly when you're in trouble and you're trying to ask for help. That's a really hard thing to do. But believe it or not, they do actually appreciate being told where you're at as soon as possible. They do appreciate knowing what it is that you want, and they are more inclined to help you as you go along there and then, or if the situation should get worse, if you have been open about your situation and have communicated with them from the beginning. Some of the things that can be done and things that we look at, usually in the first instance, it's things called moratoriums. Essentially, that is a break from payment. We look at, say, 3 months, 6 months, sometimes even up to 12 months, but that's a hard push. The idea with moratoriums is to get people over a period of short to medium term hardship. Creditors will grant these on the basis that the person has a very good chance of getting themselves back to where they were before. And so they make concessions in terms of payments to enable them, without falling into further hardship, to get there and still keep roof above their head, food upon the tables, electricity on, gas on, water, all of those essentials, so that they're not sacrificing the basics in life. From there, the sort of things that we talk about with creditors and clients as options are things like payment plans. So look at hardship payment plans, ones that are affordable. Unfortunately, when you go to creditors, sometimes they present an option to you which maybe you accept because you feel like you have no other option, that you have to do it, that there's too much at risk and you feel under pressure. We go through budgeting with people. We work out what you can actually afford, because there is no point going into any arrangement if you're not going to be able to maintain it. You could find yourself in a worse position, and it could affect things like your credit record. So we want to make sure that whatever the solution is, that it is sustainable and is not going to cause you further damages. We also like to, with moratoriums and payment plans, sometimes we can look at effects it has on the interest rates. Sometimes we can stop interest being attributed. There's lots of different solutions, and they're very different for everyone. At the moment, there have been moratoriums on things like mortgages because of COVID. Unfortunately, that's coming to an end. Similar with the provisions around rent. Hopefully, we're not going to see people being evicted. I know it's been extended slightly. Mortgages, at the moment, if you do have one, it's probably worthwhile having a look around. Certainly, as of today, the Reserve Bank said that they don't see any changes in the cash rate happening until 2024, which means that the new good rates that are out there will stick around for a while. It's always worth shopping around, and if it's not too expensive to get out of your current mortgage, so you're not paying huge exit fees, then it can be worthwhile looking around. A few percentage points in interest can make a huge difference in terms of what you will pay over the lifetime of a loan. Certainly seen some out there which are under 2% fixed for 4 years. It's always a case of doing your homework, having a look around, not necessarily taking, say, a broker's word. Do your own homework and find out what's right for you. And in line with that, we provide tailored solutions for our clients based on what their needs are, what their wants are, what their situation is, what else is going on there in their life. Everyone's experiencing something. No one chooses to live in poverty, and we appreciate that. And it's usually things that are beyond our clients' control, which has plunged them into this debt trap, this spiral that they don't feel that they can get out of. But there are solutions, and that's what we're all about. So that's what we try and work with people on. If you are going to talk to creditors, make sure you know what you want. You need to make the yes answer as easy as possible for a creditor. They don't actually want to think about it themselves. They don't want to have to come up with a solution for you. They want to know what your situation is and what it is that you want to do about it or can do about it. And then that makes it easier for them to say yes or start a negotiation process. And that's sort of part of what we do as well. Now, different types of debt. Centrelink, now they're a bit of a beast and they're very, very confusing for everyone. I think everyone has probably experienced Centrelink and getting all sorts of mixed answers from them. We find it very difficult to get clarity from them sometimes. Centrelink do have what they call financial information officers. So if you ever want to talk about your Centrelink options, if you ever want to find out what payments might be available to you, you can always request to speak with one of them and they will talk it through with you. If you do have repayments, because they have an indexed amount, they will always charge you the maximum if they think you have a debt. If that is not sustainable for you, it is an option. You are available. You can go and request that the amount is reduced. Of course, it will take you longer to pay it back, but if it means that you're not sacrificing things like food, like medication, whatever it is, then it is worthwhile asking for that reduction. Now, if you disagree with the debt with Centrelink, there are options for you. As with any debt, the process generally is that you ask for an internal review before you then, if you're not satisfied with the outcome, escalate it and ask for something external. So in the case of Centrelink, you can actually ask for an authorised review officer to look at your case. They are supposed to be a little more impartial. Whether that happens or not is questionable. But certainly if you do that, it's wise to ask for the recovery action to be suspended. So that's what we mean by that is that the deductions are halted whilst the review takes place. So that if you should find that you get a successful outcome, you haven't had money taken away from you that you didn't have to pay. Of course, you could recover it, but essentially, why should you suffer in the short term whilst a decision is being made if it's not money that you actually owe? Now, if you wish to do this for yourself, there are templates on the Victorian Legal Aid website, which you can basically use, cut and paste, add your name in, and it covers all of that information and you can send it off to them. With any communication, certainly with government authority, get receipt numbers for all of them, note down dates and times and possibly even who you spoke to. Again, you've probably all experienced cases where information has supposedly gotten lost somewhere in the system, and it all comes back to you. In the end, they always throw it back to you. Well, you have to submit it again. They never accept responsibility for any of those things. So if you've got those things, at least you have something to prove. And that becomes important because in terms of payments getting granted, it's payment backdated to the point that you submitted all the correct documents. So it's not from the point of first contact with them or first application, it's point of when you submitted all the correct documents. So if you at least have things like receipt numbers, you can maybe prove that they owe you more money or it goes back further than they suggest. Now with tax debts, similar sort of thing. You can go into payment plans with them. It is possible to get release from a tax debt under hardship grounds. You need to get in contact with them, or that's something that we also do. There are forms to fill out. You basically need to prove that it is not something that is sustainable at your overall standard of lifestyle, not life standard, but basically you will be in further hardship by having to pay this. There's a few hoops that you have to jump through, but it is an option out there that you can certainly look at. Another big area is fines. And if you are contesting any of your fines, it is always worthwhile getting a list from Fines Victoria. Basically, all you need from there is one of your obligation numbers. You can enter that in on the Fines Victoria website, which is listed there. And then you can get a complete list of all of the fines, where they're at, what you owe. In terms of payment plans, Fines Victoria are generally open to proposals there. Again, it's a case of what you can afford. You can ask for amounts to be reduced depending on your circumstances. And that's why I get back to what I said about tailored solutions. Sometimes people, for whatever reason, haven't been able to address a problem as soon as it has come up. In terms of fines, things can escalate, and with that, so do the costs. So that's also a conversation that can be had. Keeping in contact with them and entering into some payment plan, no matter how small, is really important, just because they like to see that you are trying to meet your obligations, and that makes a huge difference. And it does for all creditors. If you can pay something, it's better than paying nothing or ignoring the problem, even if it's small and it's less than they actually want, because if it shows that you're trying, then they're more inclined to work with you. Now, there is a concept called special consideration. That is a way where they will look at waiving the fines, and that has a number of criteria that needs to be met. So if at the time that the fine was incurred, you were experiencing homelessness, some form of drug addiction or alcohol addiction, had mental health problems or family violence, then there is a special application that you can be made in order for those fines to be considered to be wiped. There are, again, tools and templates on the Victorian Legal Aid website, so that you can put in those applications. But in fact, on the Fines website, Fines Victoria website, there is the application form to download to make an application for special consideration. So you can do that yourself if you want, or you can talk to a financial counsellor about it. I've also made mention on the left here something about scams. They come and go. There's different ones happening all of the time. A lot of them relate to government. I even had one on my work phone this morning telling me that my Centrelink account has been cancelled. It all sounded very official. It's very easy to be sucked in. But the basic thing to remember is government authorities, most authorities are not going to ask for personal information over the phone. They're not generally going to ask it for email either. They're going to ask you to log into a secure site of theirs. So, for instance, in the case of the ATO and Centrelink, they will want all information done through the MyGov website. So they are not going to ask you for personal information. If it's anything ever sounds dodgy, certainly check with the organisation independently so that you can make sure whether it's legitimate or not. You can see there just some basic statistics over the last year, the types of scams that have come up, and the amount of money, the incredible amount of money that has been lost. We're talking close on 100 million Australian dollars that have been lost through various forms of scams. So if it sounds dodgy, it quite well could be. Double check. Don't do what they're asking you to do. Don't provide personal details immediately. As mentioned earlier, we talk a lot about financial literacy. I prefer to use the term financial well-being. It is important to do a budget regularly. Budgets are not a once-off. They're a very fluid thing as circumstances in your life change. So you get married or partner, so your household might have double income. Equally, if you separate, if you have children, if you lose your job or if you get a better job, it's always worthwhile looking back at your budget and seeing where you stand financially. And that can give you a better perspective of what you can afford, what you can save, where you have to save, where you have to cut back, what you can afford to contribute towards debts and so forth. So it helps you have peace of mind, but better control over your money overall. And a good website is the ASIC one, which is moneysmart.gov.au. It does have budget templates on there, which are really user-friendly. It's something that you can go back to time and time again. It gives information on debt management, on savings, on taxation and superannuation. So it's a nice, easy first point of call to do some research for yourself if you would like to. Now, in terms of some of the concessions that are available to people out there, this is for people who are on some sort of Centrelink pension. A lot of people are familiar with the utility relief grant. Not everyone, sometimes it is new news. Basically, that's a contribution of up to $650 every 2 years per utility. There are non-mains relief grants, but of course the main one is the utility relief grant. It's a very easy application process. People should contact the utility provider if they think they're eligible for it. They are now required to do it for you over the phone and submit it to DHHS, who are the ones who pay out. In the end, previously they used to send out very confusing forms, but now they've been told that they actually have to help their customers, so they will do that for you. If you find that you're using a lot of electricity or gas, there are excess energy consumptions which are available. Again, something you can talk to your utility company about. There is the medical cooling concession in Victoria, which is of electricity. It runs from the months of November to March. Doesn't hurt to apply for it now because they will backdate it over this previous summer. Basically, it's for people who experience some sort of medical issue which would cause them to use more electricity than normal. Now, I'm not a medical professional. I can't say what would or wouldn't be accepted. It's a form that needs to be signed off on by your doctor, but I certainly know I've had a few clients who, for instance, have suffered fibromyalgia, and it has been approved on the basis that part of that condition is that they can't regulate their body temperature properly. That's just one example. Similarly, we're kind of lucky to be living in an area where we have Yarra Valley Water as our water provider. They've been at the forefront of providing hardship and appreciating hardship and working with customers. They also have a medical concession. That's something where, again, you need to get a support letter from your doctor. You can submit it to them and they will consider it. They also have a concession, which we found out recently, for large families, because they appreciate that those households will use more water than others. I'd also say with those medical concessions, it's not just for the person whose name is on the bill, it's for someone who is in the household. Now, as of Monday, the 1st of February, there is an additional payment that is available. It is also a result of COVID and the fact that we spent many, many months at home and probably had the electricity on and the gas on much more than we would normally. And that is a single payment of $250 toward the electricity bill. You have 12 months to apply for that, so no need to panic and go online just yet, but you can apply for that at, again, the website that's there, which is compare.energy.vic.gov.au. Just need your your Centrelink number and also your utility account number, and that can be applied for there. We don't like to advocate getting credit, but sometimes things happen. The washing machine breaks down or the fridge breaks down, the car needs new tyres, whatever. In preference to going to some payday lender who will charge you a ridiculous amount of money, there are some other options out there, and one of those is NILS, so no interest loan scheme. It's run by the not-for-profit Good Shepherd Microfinance. It's amounts up to $1,500, paid back, well, the expectation is 12 to 18 months, usually done as a centre pay deduction. It is for things, so like the fridge, like the tyres, whatever it is, essentials. If you're having to move home for whatever reason, getting yourself set up again. It is not to be used to pay off debt, and they want to prove it. If you do need more money than that for whatever reason, there are the step-up loans, again provided by Good Shepherd Microfinance. They have a small interest rate, and that's for amounts up to $3,000. Another product that they do have is called Essentials by AAI. They have comprehensive car insurance and contents insurance. It's for cars up to the value of $7,000. The most important element, I know it's not a lot necessarily for your car, but the most important element is that it is comprehensive. We see far too many people who have only third party or fire and theft, or worse still, none. So if you have third party, that's great for the other person. If you're at fault, you know, they get their car fixed, but everyone needs a car nowadays. You don't want to be left without one if you end up totaling yours. People need it to go shopping, to go to work, to get the kids to school, whatever it is. So for some, this is an affordable option in terms of getting third party. Now, of course, you have to check on the website, you have to talk to them, find out what the terms and conditions are, just to make sure that it's right for you. But it is an option that's out there and certainly worth looking into. Now, I mentioned about the payday loans. This is just a shocking example of how much they will, quite frankly, rip you off. Here they're talking about a TV, example of it being $1,295. That's basically what will pay off over the course of a nils loan. They'll ask you to pay the $50 there, and over that time, that is the only amount that you will pay. Now, if you took a cash loan, so like a cash advance or whatever, all of a sudden you're looking at fees, you're looking at interest, and that $1,295 all of a sudden becomes almost, well, becomes they're saying $2,176. That is a huge increase. That's almost $1,000 increase on the actual cost of a TV. In the case of rentals, like rent to buy and so on, the situation is even worse. So you end up at the end paying, say here, 3 times the amount for, by the end of the loan, a product which doesn't actually have any value anymore. So it's worthwhile shopping around, or at least investigating things like nils loans. And you need it right now, and you don't have the cash to hand. Really, the last thing I wanted to talk about was financial abuse. It is far too prevalent, and financial abuse is a form of family violence. Far too many people think that family violence is really just physical. It's not. It's emotional, it's psychological, and financial. And what it comes down to is where someone is having the power taken away, having the financial power, decision-making power taken away. That doesn't mean that you have a family situation where, by mutual agreement, one partner takes responsibility for the paying of bills. As long as you still have a say in where the money goes, financial decisions, household financial management, and so on. That's very different to financial abuse, where people find themselves being coerced into taking out contracts. We've seen a lot of people who have left abusive relationships, and they haven't just left with nothing, they've left with debt, because they found out that assets have been put in one party's name and all the debt has been put in theirs. And at the end of the day, whoever's name is on the bill is the person who is liable for it. A lot of financial institutions are now coming to understand that, and they're developing financial or family violence policies. And so that's part of what we do as financial counsellors, try to work with them to come up again with the tailored solutions for people, predominantly women, who are experiencing this and trying to get away or have just gotten away from those kind of circumstances. That's really all I wanted to say at the moment. You've got here on the left-hand side the Orange Door, who are based in our area, and they filter out to various services. If place for women and children who are experiencing this, so they can give warm referrals for all sorts of assistance. They certainly refer to us for financial counselling. Then nationwide, there is the 1800 Respect. And similarly, they can provide over the phone assistance. Just here, finally, before we get into any questions, there's just some details about us. You can contact us for a financial counselling appointment. We are doing them over the phone at the moment. I understand that we will be going back into the office on a limited capacity as of next month. Don't hold me to that, but we will be able to see people face-to-face very soon. And the catchment area for us are people who live within, again, Whittlesea, Nillumbik, Darebin, Banyule and City of Yarra. There is also the National Debt Helpline. So if you're talking to friends, family, anywhere else in Australia and they happen to mention that they're having financial hardship, please do get them to call the National Debt Helpline. It is staffed by financial counsellors who will be able to provide some immediate information. But then they will also give out warm referrals to the closest financial counsellor or financial counselling service to that person. It is nationwide. The number 1800 007 007. Of course, there's the details there for Whittlesea Community Connections, and I'd like to thank them again for allowing us to come along today and talk about what we do. We're certainly wanting to get the word out there about financial counselling, encourage people to reach out and ask for help, because that's what we're here for. And just spread the word about financial counselling before you go to some sort of debt vulture who's going to charge you for a debt solution, because at the end of the day, if someone is charging you for a debt solution, you're not getting a debt solution, and that's the bottom line. So our service is free and confidential. I believe they want to ask a questionnaire afterwards, but does anyone have any questions for me as a result of this? I know I might have overloaded you with information, I hope not, but it's to give you a taster of what we're about and what we can do for our clients.